Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for the noise if I'm making noise right now. I had Doc asked me a question while I was making the previous video, and I didn't see it, and I shut down the video. He asks a question. It looks like it's talking about variation. What do you call the genetic change resulting from differential reproductive fitness in a given environment? I'm guessing. Let me see. We're talking about a genetic change resulting from differential reproductive fitness in a given environment. It would be, I would call that an advantage. Is that the right answer? Doc asked me the question in a previous video, and I don't know if he's going to rejoin this video or not, but that's, I didn't see his question. It would be interesting if he was able to respond, because I think I answered it. It would be an advantage. What do you call the genetic change resulting from a differential reproductive fitness in a given environment? Okay, he's talking about the change resulting from an advantage in reproductive fitness in a given environment. So it would be a genetic change from reproductive fitness. So it'd be a natural selection thing where there would be a genetic change. It's called genetic drift, I think. Again, it doesn't explain how the information got there. You're altering what's already there, the information that is there. So I don't see it as being too relevant to what I was talking about, because I was talking about, of course, I was talking about abiogenesis, but abiogenesis has the same problem as evolution. It's just that evolutionists don't want to admit it. Because what's the problem of abiogenesis, which is what I was talking about, is the chances of something falling into directed working order. That would be abiogenesis. But for every different living organism, you have the same problem, because you have to have things fall into directed working order for something to have different instructions. And the belief of evolution is that, is not to worry about how the instruction got there. I mean, they think that if you can just ignore the problem of how the instruction got there, then you can explain everything that we see. But the problem is you still can't explain everything you see as a result of copying errors, which is what evolution depends on. Of course, it's copying errors that are selected for. That's their belief. Their belief that copying errors are being selected, and those errors are beneficial. But that's the same problem as getting the information there to begin with. Because the chances of something putting itself together are, close to or impossible when you consider the chances of it destroying itself. And that's the whole problem, is that you're getting all these mutations, you're accumulating mutations, and you think that a couple beneficial mutations are going to outweigh all the damage you're doing to the DNA. That's what the belief is. And it's just not going to work, because you still have the same problem of things not falling into directed working order at a greater rate than things falling apart. Even when you consider natural selection, you think that natural selection is the savior. As long as it's selected for, then you think that you're going to have infinite possibilities in limited time and space. And it's those infinite possibilities that get you, because there's infinite possibilities of it falling apart just the same. If you're going to have infinite possibilities of it falling into directed working order, you also have to consider the possibility of having infinite possibilities of it falling apart. You can't have just one side of the equation. You have to consider all possibilities. When you consider all possibilities, you can see that there's intent and purpose in everything that we see, because there's obviously directed working mechanisms, and not only that, there's many different direct working mechanisms, thousands of different directed working mechanisms with different purposes, and all working together. It's like the same way that we are an organism, or the same way that there's organisms inside of us and we are an organism, the earth is an organism too. All of life on earth is an organism, and everything has its part and its place and its purpose, so that the whole works together. It's not haphazard. There's all kinds of intent and purpose, and we can know this because you can't have chance resulting in having a directed working mechanism, because of the fact that everything will fall apart at a much greater rate than it was supposedly putting itself to in directed working order, putting itself together. So the belief, your slim hope, is that the copying errors that are beneficial are going to outweigh the copying errors that are destructive. It's the same problem. It's the same problem. You haven't gotten away from the problem of random chance not making a directed working mechanism with intent and purpose, with all wisdom and understanding. This is the evidence. And of course, if you insist on having a natural cause, that's what I'm saying. You're not being logical or rational. You're not being logical, rational, or reasonable at all. I have to get credit to Doc for this statement here, because I don't know if he's going to be able to make it, because he was in the previous video and he asked a question, and I shut off the video before he ever got around to before I ever answered or responded to it. So, and he hasn't come back on. So I apologize to Doc for not seeing his question before I shut the video off. I was just I didn't expect anybody to watch my video. So the question again is, what do you call the genetic change resulting from differential reproductive fitness in a given environment? That's a little bit complicated because there's more than one thing involved in what he's asking. The genetic change resulting from different, it'd be like genetic drift, I think is what the answer is. It would be beneficial, or at least for the time being, a beneficial genetic drift, but not perfect. When something's not perfect, that's where the problem is. Because who's to say that the genetic drift is the best thing or the perfect thing? And of course, there is no perfect thing in this physical world. I mean, in physical things. And that's what the problem is that you cannot look to physical things for perfection. You can't look for perfection in physical things. That's why when God said that everything that he made was good, he didn't say it was morally perfect or morally evil either. He just said it was good. But you can't get perfection from a physical thing. You can't look to physical things for perfection. In fact, you can't look to physical things for anything, for that matter. You have to look to the maker of the physical things, which is kind of the whole point. What we are trying to say is that you can't look to material things for answers or solutions. You have to look to the maker of the physical things for answers and solutions. And that is the whole point that the Bible is trying to say. That only your maker can remake you. Nobody else can. Well, I'm sorry that I shut off the video when Doc asked the question, but hopefully I was able to answer his question or address his question. So, and I think I did, because you still have the same problem even after having a living organism. You still have the same problem of having no direction, no sense of direction or purpose or intent. The direction and intent and purpose is in the creation of the organism. The organism itself is not going to have or find or make intent and purpose. It just does what it's ordered to do. It is what it's forced to be, and it does what it's directed to do. So that it can't do anything of its own. And the hope of evolutionists is that copying errors are going to be selected for, and they're going to select out all the mistakes. But the reality is that you have to look at both sides of the equation, and that the more something falls into directed working order, there's much more chance that it's going to fall apart, which is what my video was about. Because you can't get intent and purpose from physical things. And you have to have intent and purpose to get a directed working mechanism. And once you have a directed working mechanism, you're not going to get perfection from that directed working mechanism. The perfection comes from the maker of the directed working mechanism, not the mechanism itself. So we can't glorify the creature more than the creator. And that is the whole point of the biblical teaching. That is the whole point of the error in logic, that you're not being logical or rational if you give the credit to physical things for anything, for being anything. Because everything is what it's forced to be, and everything only ever does what it's directed to do. Without direction, it's not going to do anything, and it can't make direction on itself. And that's what the hope is in naturalism, is that physical things are going to make something meaningful and useful. And it's just not possible, because you're not looking at the reality. You're looking to physical things, which is idolatry in the Bible. You're looking to physical things for hope or meaning or reason or purpose or whatever, and it's not going to work.